Hello, welcome to Channel Annabella. Welcome to episode 10 of Chats with Phil. Today we're going to talk about the history of vampires.
History of vampires with Phil. Start us off, Phil, with Bram Stoker.
Bram Stoker was obviously the writer of the famous Dracula, and of course the inspiration for Bram Stoker's Dracula was, of course, Vlad the Impaler, who just remind me who Vlad the Impaler was?
Truce from Transylvania and he impaled people.
Yes, he was quite gruesome, and obviously this was a lot of the inspiration that Bram Stoker took to create the character of Dracula, who was the
Count
Dracula, who was on the one hand a very well-mannered host, but on the other hand had a lot of dark and sinister secrets. Now, obviously with a lot of vampire lore and a lot of things that run through...
And the silent movies.
She says. But one of the key things, and especially that is noted in the Dracula legends, is...
My favourite one is one with Gary Oldman.
As you do. One of the key tropes one would note with the Dracula movies is, of course, the brides of Dracula that are mentioned in Bram Stoker's novel, because it's all about lust and carnal desire, and obviously the process of biting is the process of becoming a vampire, which, of course, is the lust and
wonderful
desire. So that was Bram Stoker. And then, of course, there were references to things like the Nosferatu, which, of course, the German vampire legends.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it was a very nice silent movie featuring Nosferatu, by the way.
Well, there you are, yes, there was the nice silent movie.
He's bold.
And, of course, there is Anne Rice's Vampires, which she did Interview with the Vampire, which is a brilliant
Lestat
film.
and Louis.
Yep.
And Claudia.
A little bit of Interview with the Vampire would sort of cross over to kind of...
True Blood and Buffy.
Buffy, yes, because Buffy the Vampire Slayer, that was the next evolution in like the vampire mythology, because earlier vampire myths, they were pure demon, and there was no remorse or guilt about things.
Oh, there wasn't Anne Rice's.
Well, Anne Rice, I suppose that's where you got kind of the halfway point.
And also you got them looking very statuesque.
Well, when you get to like Buffy, you get perhaps early examples of kind of a more complex character like Angel and Spike, who have hidden depths.
And Louis and Lestat.
Louis and Lestat, yes. And then obviously, if you take the spectrum of evolution of the vampire, you go.
Don't forget Bill from True Blood and Eric.
Yes, Bill from True Blood and Eric. They were part of that spectrum of evolution. And then let's say we fast forward to like Twilight, where they become cute, pink, and fluffy.
Well, actually, they're not exactly cute, pink, and fluffy.
Well, not all right. They're not.
But
pink and fluffy,
they can exist in the day and they do sparkle. But actually that has links to Anne Rice, because in Anne Rice's novels she describes Lestat and Louis' bodies as like marble statues because they're dead and they're cold. And another thing is Lestat and Louis actually can't have sex.
Right,
because
by the time you get to Twilight and you think of Edward's character, talk about teen idolization. It's like the good boyfriend scenario.
Except he was a terrible boyfriend.
Right, he was a terrible boyfriend, but he was probably much more safer than like earlier vampire encounters.
Probably. Well, not really. Some people equate Edward to domestic abuse, but we're going to leave that point and move swiftly on to anything else, because I mean we've mentioned Dracula and...
different shows, I think, had different spins on vampire legend. I mean, obviously Doctor Who had an episode called Curse of Fenric.
Oh, I love the Hemivores.
Came out of the sea, and they were... The idea of the vampires was a next stage of evolution for the humanity.
And what's the other episode?
And the other one, of course, was State of Decay, which features... there was a great war with the Time Lords, and there was the Vampire King. And, there was some vampires in E-space, and they're presumably, although it's set in a sort of outer spacey scenario, has the same rules of vampirism and the same ideas of vampirism.
Weren't the vampires originally Time Lords?
No. They were the rivals to Time Lord. Both Time Lords and vampires obviously had long lives, but obviously had different methods.
Which Doctor was this film?
This was Tom Baker.
Was it Fourth Doctor?
Fourth Doctor, yes. Doctor, that was State of Decay.
Yeah. Anything else you wish to say on vampires? Apart from carnal lust and desire. Anything else?
There is an interesting theory, and I think it is...
Oh, we've missed Underworld, with vampires being sort of like greedy.
Which Underworld do you mean?
I mean Underworld.
There's a film
Yes, where vampirism is like akin to a virus.
Oh, okay. No, what I was going to try and drive towards was the notion that the vampire demon, I suppose, it's shaped or moulded in different ways. Like obviously in the Buffy verse, although it's predominantly vampires with other demons mixed in, vampires were, I suppose, they were akin to the sort of metaphor of the problems that teenagers faced in terms of relationships.
The joys of puberty.
Joys of puberty. And again, they're always tied to kind of carnal desires. That's a strong aspect of vampire mythology.
Having vampires that can't have sex is very difficult, but weirdly enough, Lestat and Louis actually couldn't. So they got all of their pleasure from biting.
Well, yeah, but then wasn't, in other mythologies, the whole process of biting was kind of their pleasure thing.
Exactly.
The whole bitey thing.
Anyway, have you got anything else to say?
Just trying to rack my brain on this one.
He's racking his brain.
Whether I've been bit. No, it was because the other key trope, of course, is different monsters are almost created out of their societies. Witches are created from a society where men are sort of frightened of wise women. Vampires are perhaps demonized as the
Outsiders.
Well, yeah, but are they perhaps a society that is frightened of sexual promiscuousness, sort of thing?
Yep. Ah,
And then
Phil,
in the
you
same way
touched the
that
nail.
Zombies are perhaps our fears of communism, or as they would say that.
I kind of like zombies. They kind of eat brains, but they become very, very boring.
Well, this is why we're talking about vampires, not zombies.
Yes, exactly. Anything you wish to say to the public?
No, that covers it all. That.
You'd wish them a happy Halloween.
Oh, happy Halloween! It's with the vampire thing.
Remember
and
to like, comment, and subscribe.
with the biting and the sucking and the blah blah blah
Blah blah blah blah.
blah 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 blah.
Vampires. So, say farewell.
Oh, farewell and have fun. Merry Halloween thing.
Yes, Merry Halloween.
Gosh.
Bye.
Bye.
Like, comment, subscribe.
Like, comment, subscribe.
Wave your hat at the camera a little bit more. Lower, lower, lower.
Lower, like that.
He's feeding. Melt, melt.
Melt. Oh, what a world.
Yes, melt, melt.
Oh,
Keep
dear, I'm
melting.
I'm
Melting. He's melting. Now put the hat on your head. Ta-da.
Ta-da.
Farewell.